Check. 1, 2, 3.
The D-Brief. This is the D-Brief.
Your guide to Detroit.
Your guide to Detroit's
arts and entertainment scene.
This is the D-Brief.
Hello and welcome to the D-Brief, your podcast for Detroit concerts, comedy, plays, food, drink, and more. It's Tuesday, August 27th, 2019. I'm your co-host. My name is Seth Ressler.
And I'm Becky Scarcello.
And if you've never heard the podcast before, I am the new guy to Detroit.
And I'm the native Detroiter.
Yeah, that's the way it works. Here's what we've got on today's show. It is Labor Day this weekend, 3-day weekend. Summer's over. Done.
Stop. No.
It's done.
I don't want it to be.
I
refuse.
Up.
No.
Yes.
No.
Your kid's back in school?
Well, one is, one not.
Well, all right. It's over.
I don't know. I go till the solstice.
Here's the good news. You've got a lot of options for this 3-day weekend.
You do.
We'll walk you through some of them.
I'm going to tell you about the brand new documentary on Motown called Hitsville.
And then Beacon Park has announced its fall schedule. We'll talk about some of the highlights.
And on Friday, you'll want to tune in for a super cool interview with Mark Stryker, who has just done a brand new book, came out in July, about the history of jazz in Detroit.
This book is getting great reviews, too.
Yes, amazing reviews. A lot of great press.
I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about the history of jazz in Detroit. Or the history of jazz.
In
or
general?
The history of Detroit.
Mm-hmm. That's why we do this podcast, so you can learn
But
these
I'm excited
things.
for this conversation.
Yes.
Look, we have a website. It is thedebriefdetroit.com. We're going to talk about a lot of things in this podcast episode. If you would like us to email you links to all of those things, all you got to do is go over to that website, thedebriefdetroit.com, and sign up for the email list.
Or you can just text the word Detroit to 444-999.
And of course, we also have Michigan Podcast Productions. We have had so many people from arts and entertainment organizations here in Detroit come on the podcast and say, we've been thinking about launching a podcast. If that is you, you want to launch a podcast, we can help. Just go to our website, michiganpodcastproductions.com. Now, normally we would introduce our guest co-host for the episode, but this is a first. This has never happened to us before. We actually, our co-host is MIA.
I know. It's just me and you.
Is it? We blaming it on traffic. We're blaming it on weather. We're blaming it on...
We're just going to leave it undisclosed.
You'll never know.
It's a great mystery.
The D-Brief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
All right, Becky, what's going on in music news?
So, cool new movie out. It just premiered on Showtime. So you can go see this at Showtime, stream it anytime. Hitsville, the Making of Motown documentary. It was great. So I watched it so I could, speak intelligently about it.
So you've watched it. So
I watched it.
Because I'm actually in the process where the deal for my cable has worn off. And so now I have to call them up and
pay for
renegotiate. And I'm sort of thinking, Game of Thrones is over. I could lose HBO. Maybe there's a Showtime deal. Is this worthy of switching?
Yeah, because I think there's a few other good things on Showtime that, I'd recommend.
But the documentary on its own.
Oh, no, on its own, for sure. Yeah, even if you just grab it for a month or whatever.
Why? What else are you watching on Showtime?
What else? Billions is a great show.
I've
on
heard that.
Showtime. Shameless.
Yeah, really?
I like Shameless, yeah. And then they have a new episode or a new season come out in November. There's that show called The Affair. They have the latest season just came out.
We are in a world where there are so many television shows out there that I can't keep up with them all.
Oh, I barely watch TV, so I'm just throwing out a few names.
You don't even know.
Not exactly, but I saw them on there.
You're a terrible spokesperson for Showtime.
I'm a terrible spokesperson for TV in general, but I am a good spokesperson for Motown.
All right.
And you should see Hitsville. So what's cool about it is Barry Gordy's involved, Smokey Robinson's involved, Capitol Music Group, they were fully involved. So there's a lot of rare footage that even if you are the biggest Motown aficionado, you will not have seen some of this stuff. Like really cool, rare bits of artists performing and behind the scenes, some audio recordings of their very particular quality control meetings, which I found very fascinating.
What happens in a quality control meeting?
So they would all get around the table, all the heads at Motown, and chat through what songs they were championing and what artists they were championing, and then they would vote on it. So they'd go through, they did an example of My Girl, Temptations, and it was a split vote.
So who's in the meeting and what are they deciding here?
All the different, the head of A&R, of course, Barry Gordy, Smokey Robinson.
And they're deciding, do we push this out?
Do we push this out? Do we think it's going to work? do we try to find a different song for this group or that group?
So that's interesting because it sounds
very
like
democratic.
When I worked in a radio station, we would have every week we called it the music meeting, and we would listen to all the new songs that the record labels were pushing to us. And I'd be in there as the program director, my music director would be in there. Maybe we'd have some DJs or some other staff members. We'd listen to everything together, and we'd essentially do the same thing.
Oh, okay,
except we were deciding which records to play on the radio. So it doesn't surprise me. I'll bet it works very similar.
It was pretty interesting. And, a song like My Girl that became the number one hit that beat out the Beatles finally, you know, because the Beatles had like several on the top of the charts.
Well, and then you feel like the idiot when you're the one who didn't.
Exactly. And there were several.
I will tell you, when I first heard Smash Mouth All Star, I was like, no. I don't get it. That's not a hit.
I could see why you'd think that.
Yeah.
Do you remember when those musical toothbrushes came out? They had like maybe you don't, but they had musical toothbrushes a few years back that would have popular songs. And so it would encourage kids to brush long enough.
Oh, okay, yes.
Because they'd have to listen to those songs. And All Star was one that my son had a toothbrush. Yeah. Hey now. Yeah. And I was so damn sick of that song. I
believe it. Yes. That would kill a song.
But anyway, back to the movie. So I thought it's a very positive look. It's a feel good movie. You'll even, like I said, even if you're a huge fan, you will learn some new things and have, be exposed to some new things. But what I really liked about it is it really shows how it wasn't just about music. It really, was pivotal in kind of changing the climate of culture.
Did they know at the time?
They started to know, and the film goes into that. When Berry Gordy talks about how Martin Luther King Jr. came up to him and said, "I want to work with you guys because of what you're doing for race relations."
Wow.
Then they knew
they
were changing the world. So it's pretty sweet.
I feel like we still don't realize how big an impact this podcast has on.
I think we'll find out later
world.
when they make our documentary. It'll probably be a mockumentary, but yeah.
There's going to be a lot of found footage.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't even know it's being taken right now.
Here's Seth clipping his nails.
Oh, gosh, yeah. So go check it out, Showtime. And actually, the directors are British, which is kind of cool, too. They were chosen to do this movie. So Hitsville, The Making of Motown. So last week, the Night Arts Challenge in Detroit announced their finalists. Do you know about this?
So I know about the Night Arts Challenge because we've talked about this. There's the Knight Foundation and then there's the Kresge Foundation. These are the two big ones here that support the arts.
Really support arts. Yeah, really big funding in the arts. Others too, but yeah, big money to be found. And it's a pretty, wide open field, right? Like you can apply for this challenge grant. There's 62 finalists that were announced. So it's a pretty big thing. $2 million in prize money is up for grabs. So basically the criteria is tell a unique Detroit story from some kind of art perspective, whether that be theater or visual art or music. And all the winners will be announced October 10th. So it will get very whittled down and any winner must match the money. So whatever you get from Knight, you got to go raise from other sources.
Kickstarter.
Yeah, to make your project happen, however you do it.
Or else you don't get the Knight money.
Exactly.
Really?
Yeah.
And the money just goes back into the bank.
Yep. So usually it's pretty motivated people. Usually they make it happen. But it's kind of fascinating to look at the 62 finalists. You can find them online. And here's a few that stood out to me. So one project is matching up talented organists with silent films that they'll play at the Senate Theater.
Okay.
How random, right?
That is kind of random.
I know. And another one is creating a concert.
If I were the organist, and I'm not an organist, I would totally play against whatever's on screen.
Oh, do you like that? Like if it was a scary movie,
right? I'd be like,
real happy, circus.
Yeah, I would totally, do
a mashup.
You ever seen what's the Woody Allen film?
Which one?
Oh, where he threw out the script. It was like a Japanese ripoff of a James Bond film.
Oh, yeah,
and he threw out the script and he wrote all his own dialogue and put it in there.
Yes.
I would do something like that.
I could see you doing that. Yeah. It could be fun. It could be awesome or really bad.
It's why I'm not an organist.
for among the many reasons. So another one is basically chronicling Detroit's punk scene. Okay. And they want to create a concert and an exhibition of memorabilia from the Greystown Hall, which was a big venue back in the day for punk bands. Another one, they want to record oral history interviews with artists and musicians, songwriters who created kind of the lesser known Detroit music from the 50s, 60s, 70s. And I said to myself,
oral history interviews.
why
You know what
didn't
that
we
sounds like?
think of that?
Well, it sounds like a podcast.
Exactly.
I wonder how many people are doing podcasts. I wonder if people think about podcasts when they're thinking.
That's my question. Yeah.
So I was just came back from Orlando, Florida. I was there for the Podcast Movement Conference, which is it's in its 6th year this year. It is the largest podcasting conference in the world, and there were over 3,000 people there. And I will tell you, having been there, I've been there for 5 of these years.
Yeah.
There were more suits. I mean, it's podcasting, so they're not full-blown suits. They're just like
But
sports
just-
jackets
yeah.
and jeans, like the hip dentist look.
Yeah.
But there were more suits there than ever before. And what you're starting to see is a lot of, brands telling their story in podcast form.
Yeah.
Jack Daniels, NASA, eBay. I mean, the list
Nike, yeah.
it goes on and on. The number
And they're
of,
using it as a piece of their
it's not like it's not like a big long ad.
Yeah.
It's educational, much like something like this would be.
Yeah.
But I love it in the arts form or anything that's artisan. I mean, like I love the idea of a Jack Daniels podcast and
Oh, heck yeah.
I like whiskey and
Yeah.
I like knowing more about what I'm drinking. I love the idea of doing it with 50s, 60s, 70s music.
Exactly.
We should go get a Knights Arts
made
grant
me
next
think
year.
along those lines.
Yeah,
So, listeners, if you have any ideas of podcasts that you'd like to hear
Yeah,
in the arts and entertainment realm,
and you want to go get a grant,
send us a
let's
note.
make that happen.
Yeah, yeah. So, concert picks. So, one of the biggest places to see a lot of bands, 200 to be fair, on 9 stages, Arts Beats and Eats this
Yeah,
weekend.
it's coming back.
Downtown Royal Oak. So, of course, there's national act headliners. They've got All American Rejects on Friday, the Four Tops, Third Eye Blind on Sunday, Night
big
Ranger on Monday.
Third Eye Blind has played a bunch of shows for me, in the
Back in the
past.
day,
when
yeah.
I was, my radio career. That dude, Stephen Jenkins, he was always hitting on the female DJs.
Oh, I can totally
I don't know if he's
see
settled down now or
No,
what
he's
he's
a little
like,
bit older.
but he was always he was
the
a player.
player.
Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely.
So also lots of local acts that you'll recognize, like the Killer Flamingos, Howling Diablo, Sean Blackman in Transit. They promised this year at least 16 new local acts. Here's a couple that caught my ear. Mark Whalen and the Buttermilk Boys. Now they're billed as a sexy funk pop act.
It just sounds dirty.
I know, Buttermilk Boys. So, and then there's an 11-piece ensemble showcasing danceable music from Afro-Caribbean funk, R&B, and jazz traditions called Jive Colossus. So both of those, I'm like, now that's what I'd put on my list.
Yeah, I'd go see that.
Yeah. So lots of great music to be had in downtown Royal Oak from Friday to Monday. Thursday, August 29th, Fantagram's playing the Fillmore. Steely Dan is at Meadowbrook, and the Craig Brown Band is at Bolero in Royal Oak. So Bolero is going to be a new venue I'm mentioning for my concert pick. So this is the totally redone bowling alley.
So I've
in
seen
Royal Oak.
photos of this online that have showed up
Fantastic.
on my Facebook feed. It's all like
Yes.
orange and white. And
Very 70s, very mod, super cool vintage stuff.
I thought the thing to do with bowling was to do like the glow in the dark bowling or the extreme bowling.
yeah, we have that
and-
at Garden Bowl. And this is kind of hearkening back to the heyday of bowling.
When I was in college, I had to read, at the time it was just an essay. It's since been turned into a book called Bowling Alone by
don't know.
Robert Putnam.
Okay.
This was in my political theory classes. And basically the idea was that democracy in America has declined, and one of the places you see it is the decline of bowling leagues.
Oh, sure.
And it was this idea of social capital, and basically that we all used to get together and
yeah.
do stuff. And now, I mean, this was even before, the internet and,
Right,
and
this-
phones and everybody just staring at, their screens
Oh my gosh,
all
I know.
day long.
Yeah.
But you can totally see how, we're a little more fractured as a society.
A little bit.
And
yeah.
so what I'm really saying here is go to Bolero and join a bowling league.
Make bowling cool again.
And yes, and it will solve all of America's problems.
It will help. It certainly won't hurt. But what I like about what Bolero is doing, they have a full-time promoter. Like he's booking live music and nightly DJs.
Cool.
So great new venue. Friday, August 30th, Jessica Hernandez and the Deltas. Now, Jessica's from Southwest Detroit. It's just incredible. Go see them at the Magic Stick. And then the MC50s at St. Andrews Hall. Sunday, September 1st, Meek Mill and Future.
Wait, the MC50, just to be clear, this is MC5 with gray hair, right?
Yes, celebrating the 50th anniversary of Kick Out the Jams.
Right.
Yep.
You'd think those jams would be kicked out by now.
Oh, no, they're still kicking.
All right.
Definitely.
This is the D.
Brave.
Let's talk about some of your Labor Day options, because there's quite a few.
Yeah, there's some biggies.
Obviously, we've got the Jazz Festival that's going on downtown. We're going to be talking about that a lot this week. We've got Andalisi from WDET. She's going to be calling in to the show tomorrow, and we'll get her take. Plus, we've got Mark Stryker, who has this new book called Jazz from Detroit, and we'll be releasing that interview on Friday with him.
Yeah. And of course, you got Arts, Beats, and Eats, which I mentioned.
Arts, Beats, and
I
Eats.
mentioned the beats, but there's also Arts and Eats.
Yes, there's lots of eats. Eat well and beat. That didn't work the way.
Never mind.
That sounded much better in my
A-B-N-E.
head.
A-B-N-E.
And then you've also got the Michigan State Fair at the Suburban Collection Showplace in Novi. Mm-hmm. That was a rousing endorsement.
I don't love the venue for that because I think back of, state fairgrounds. But
I see. I came here after the fairgrounds.
yeah, so
Fairgrounds to me is just tumbleweeds.
it is a bit. Yeah.
Well, maybe I can sell you on it.
Okay.
There's going to be a butter cow sculpture.
That's definitely a top attraction.
I mean, I'm just saying. Third Eye Blind, butter cow sculpture.
You're trying to hit both.
There's going to be a barbecue boot camp featuring Professor of Meat Science, Dr. Stacy Zulli of Purdue University. I did not know it was possible to get a degree in meat science, but
Wait,
apparently
what are we?
it is.
Professor of Meat Science.
Yes, doctor. She's got a PhD in meat science.
Wait, are we tied? Okay.
I'm telling you.
No, I know.
Do you know how to barbecue?
Yes.
I will say this. You know the masterclass ads? Do those show up in your Facebook feed?
Oh, yeah.
I love the masterclasses. These are
You've
the
done
online
some of
classes.
those, yeah.
I've done some of. I took Aaron Sorkin's screenwriting class.
How come you haven't written any?
I ghostwrite.
Oh.
Avengers Endgame, that was me.
God, that's fantastic.
It's on the down low.
Oh, okay.
But I love these masterclasses, and Aaron Franklin from Franklin's Barbecue in Austin, which is one of the famous, has a class on barbecue. And I've been looking at it, and I've been kind of going, maybe I should take that. But maybe I should just go to the Michigan State Fair there in Novi, and I should take the barbecue boot camp with Professor of Meat Science.
I think you need to meet her.
Dr. Stacy's from Purdue University.
I think that's a better bet.
Purdue University has a meat science department.
Okay, what else? Giant pumpkins.
Where did you get your degree in meat science?
Well, Purdue, naturally. No, I got mine somewhere else.
Let's hope she doesn't listen to the podcast.
Can you do it online, like how you can become a minister?
No,
and
you
marry
can't
your
do
friends?
a meat science degree online. You've got to taste it.
Oh. Well, that would take the fun out of it, wouldn't it?
Would you go to a barbecue boot camp from somebody who had a meat science degree that was an online, No, not at all.
I'd be like, you don't even know what it tastes like.
Here's what else they've got there. They've got giant pumpkins.
I saw that.
Really pumpkins that
Enormous.
are really big.
Okay.
Yes. I don't know what kind of degree you have to get to make that. Actually, this looked cool. They have dueling high dives. And the photos that they show are these guys in like pirate costumes, like jumping off these high dives. And I guess they're sword fighting on the way down. That's pretty cool.
Dueling high dive. No, so not diving into water.
I don't know what they're diving into.
Oh.
They're diving into something. I think
Jell-O?
they're diving into giant pumpkins. I don't know, but that looked pretty cool.
Okay.
Anyway, that's all at the Michigan State Fair. Other things going on, you've got the Michigan Peach Festival, which is happening in the village of Romeo.
Yep.
It's been there since 1931. I don't know how to judge a peach.
Juiciness, softness of the skin. I don't know.
That's how I judge other things.
Yeah.
Then you've got the Hamtramck Labor Day Festival, which I know is also a big option for people who don't want to go to the Arts, Beats, and Eats or don't make it out to that. One of the highlights of the Hamtramck Labor Day Festival is the Yacht Club canoe races that they do on Joseph Campow there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's basically these push carts that look like
That's awesome.
boats, and they do it there. And
I know they have good music and food and
wrestling, Polish Day Parade, all kinds of stuff.
stuff. Nice.
So those are some of your Labor Day options. Also want to let you know that Beacon Park has announced its fall schedule. So if you want to find out everything that's going on there, they've got, of course, Detroit Lions watch parties and college football watch parties. The 5th annual Parktoberfest now has its biggest beer garden that it's ever had, and that's coming in September.
Wow.
I love beer gardens.
Yeah, they're fun.
I'm all about that.
I
But
agree.
This interested me. Friday, September 13th and 14th, you've got the Rocky Horror Picture Show Shadowcast.
Oh, so come to life.
Yeah. Have you ever seen Rocky Horror Picture Show?
Oh my gosh.
Oh, a lot?
So many times.
Really?
Oh yeah, it used to be a big thing, like midnight movie or
So the first time I ever saw it was in college, and I knew it was a big thing,
yeah.
but I've never felt so out of place as when I went to this. It was like a midnight show.
Oh yeah, people dress up,
My
they throw
freshman year.
stuff.
But what was really weird is that there are all these lines that you say to answer what they're
Yes.
saying on the screen.
Yes.
And I had no idea what they were. And I kept looking around going, how do people know what to say when?
It's a weird cult thing. Yeah, but yeah, after I went a few times.
That happens to me in church on the few times that I go to church
Yeah.
too.
Wait, why am I doing- what's
how
happening?
does everybody know the
Well,
words?
and then in the Catholic Church, they changed everything.
Did they?
I mean,
Right,
yeah,
yes.
they changed
So,
all the words.
What I'm
so.
saying is church and Rocky Horror Picture Show are pretty much the same.
similar.
Yeah, very
You
similar.
feel out of place.
Anyway, the Detroit Actors Theater Company is going to be mirroring the movie and doing a shadow
That's
cast.
fun.
So
That's fun.
That should be good. Hey, one other thing that I want to mention, and this is something that a lot of other local media outlets have talked about. I've seen
Yeah.
Curb talk about this. I've seen Aaron Foley's website, theneighborhoods.org, talk about this. The Avenue of Fashion, which is Livernois, just south of 8 Mile there. And there's a ton of shops and restaurants, and it might be the largest concentration of black-owned businesses in the Detroit
quite
area.
possibly, yeah.
They're doing construction there.
Oh, it's a mess.
They've been doing it since May. And it's down to 2 lanes, and there's not a lot of parking.
Yeah.
And supposedly it's going to be great when it's done. This
Sure.
is a $17 million project. They're adding bike lanes, which I like because I can
Oh,
actually
yeah.
bike to that area.
Me too.
And wider sidewalks and stuff like that. But while the construction is going on, it's just hurt the businesses there.
Yeah,
Right.
go see them. Like
So-
Narrow Way Coffee Shop.
Yes, if you're
and
looking for something good
Table
to
number
do,
2.
yeah, go visit the businesses there on Livernois, on the Avenue of Fashion, because some of them are reporting like a 30% drop, or there are openings that have been delayed. Some of the businesses have closed. Like we went down there earlier this summer, rode our bike because we've been talking about the popsicle stick challenge, right?
Yeah.
This is the idea that when you hear about something on this podcast that you want to go to, you write the name of it on a popsicle stick, you stick it in a jar, and then when you got nothing to do, you pull a stick out and you go do that. So we pulled out Kuzo's Chicken and Waffle
Oh yeah.
because I've heard about that place. I
Yeah.
wanted to go. We rode our bikes down there, and it turns out it was closed. They've closed it for renovations
Oh, that's right.
because of this construction. So go visit some of the other businesses that are there. There is a free park and ride shuttle that'll take people into the neighborhood so that you don't have to worry about parking.
Yeah, it's really not that bad. Like you can totally deal with
You can
it.
get you
Yeah.
can get there, and then the neighborhoods.org has a list of the businesses that have been impacted, so you can go visit some of those.
Help them out. Plus, they're just great places to go.
Yeah, absolutely, and I can't wait till it's done.
I
So-
know. It's going to be nice.
One other thing that's going on Friday, August 30th, Mary Poppins Returns is going to be the film at New Center Park. If you got a family, go take them.
This is the D.
Detroit.
This is the debrief.
That's it. Goes quick when there's no co-host.
Sure does. I just have to hang out with you.
All right. Look, we've got a mobile app. We want to let you know. We put all kinds of bonus interviews and other things in there. Go check it out. Go download it. You can get access to content that you can't get otherwise.
That's right. Or listen on your Amazon Echo. All you have to do is say, Alexa, enable the Debrief podcast.
And if you are gearing up for the Detroit Jazz Festival, which is happening this weekend, this Labor Day weekend, we have an interview that you're going to want to hear. Mark Stryker, who has the book that just came out in July called Jazz from Detroit. It was a great conversation.
Oh my gosh, so knowledgeable and very accessible. Like even if you think you might not know enough about jazz or like it enough to go, I think you'll listen and you'll want to go. All
right. Before we get out of here, you got anybody you want to shout out?
Yeah. So I've been soaking up the last days of summer and getting outside a lot. And this past weekend, we went on a kayaking trip, a little tour. And we did the canals throughout the east side of Detroit and then ended up on the Detroit River for sunset. So we saw the sunset from the Detroit River in our little kayaks. It was just amazing.
Oh,
so great. Yeah.
Somebody got laid that night.
And I just have to shout out the company that does it. So Detroit River Sports, they have wonderful guides. They have all the equipment. They just make it super easy and super enjoyable. I mean, you have to do your work and, it's a little challenging. It was choppy, but
you're overselling it. The tagline is just Detroit River Sports.
You'll get laid. Okay. Sunset kayak trip. Do it.
Hey, I was out at Podcast Movement, like I mentioned, and I want to shout out Detroit's presence there because you and I know that we've been involved in basically the podcasting community here in the city for a couple of years now.
Which is fantastic.
Yeah, well, it had very good representation there in Orlando at the Detroit
I love that.
at the Podcast Movement Conference. So just some of the people who were there, Robin Kinney of Motor City Woman. She's producing a ton of podcasts and internet radio shows over there. Zach Rosen and Jeremy Allen. We've had Jeremy Allen on the podcast as well. Those two are over at WDIV, where they have produced, among other things, the Shattered podcast, which is this great true crime podcast.
Super cool.
Jennifer Guerra of Michigan Radio. Believed is the podcast that they do about Larry Nassar, which has been a huge hit and really
well done.
Yeah, it really is. I actually, on the plane ride out, wound up sitting next to Lindsay Smith, who is the investigative reporter for Michigan Radio.
Oh, yeah. I recognize her name from the podcast.
From the podcast. Wow. And so we just started talking about it. And she was great. And then Shannon Kaysen, who's been on the podcast as well, who's a storyteller, often, he's a Moth Grand Slam champion and all this other stuff. He was out there as well. So I just want to say, good job. Good show in Detroit.
Nice.
All right. Until tomorrow, Detroit's moving.
Keep up.
The Debrief.
Your guide to Detroit's arts and entertainment scene.
Okay, look, I'm sorry. I hate to interrupt the Debrief podcast, okay? I love it too. I'm a fan of it. I've been on the show. Hey everyone, my name is Tom McCarthy. I'm the host of Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle podcast. Among other things, I'm a local stand-up comic. I'm a nudist. I'm a bon vivant. I'm a real loudmouth. And I love to talk comedy. And I get to interview the biggest names in comedy every single Tuesday on the Mark Ridley's Comedy Castle podcast. Check it out on all available podcasting platforms. You can probably find it where you found this fine show. So enough of my yapping. Aren't Seth and Becky wonderful? Don't you love to debrief?
Hi, Craig Foley here. If you're listening to the Debrief podcast, well, I've got two things to say to you. One, you have impeccable taste. Two, you care about the community that is Metro Detroit. That's why I think you'd appreciate my daily show, The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit. Every weekday, I tackle the big issues in politics, business, arts and culture, sports. Whatever's on the mind of Detroiters and Michiganders, we will talk about it. It's all open for discussion. And keep this in mind, news doesn't have to be boring. Sure, we talk about serious stories and we have interviews and commentary, but we do it in a way that, if I'm doing my job right, is informative but also entertaining. Check out The Craig Foley Show on Deadline Detroit for news, knowledge, hopefully some fun tossed in.